So what you're seeing here is a little picture of our sensor technology, which has definitely come a long way over the last several years. We've been in business since 2002, so 18 plus years, starting from brake beam style technology to thermal sensing with tracking people based on some heat signature readings, to what you're seeing now, which is our 3D stereo video technology, which tracks people based on their height. So that sensor, what it does is it builds a 3D height map, and it looks for the profile of a person based on some height parameters there. What makes this sensor unique is the fact that you can video validate it. I mentioned that because we guarantee a 97% accuracy rating or higher with this device. We're able to guarantee such an accuracy with the ability to video validate. So that's basically comparing a manual count to what the sensor counts, and then we can for it. Just to put that in perspective, so if 100 patrons would walk into your library, the sensor will count anywhere from 97 to 103 people. Another unique feature to this sensor is the artificial intelligence or AI layer. That is constantly improving with each firmware release for the device. Again, we guarantee the 97, but in most cases we see 98, 99, even 100% at times due to that AI layer there. So it's an ever so improving sensor. Our in-house support team does a great job of remotely calibrating, commissioning, and validating those sensors upon installation. When you purchase our system, it does come with proactive support and health maintenance for your sensor. So we're always on top of that, making sure things are staying online and accuracy is maintained. And as far as installation goes, we have options. So SenSource is a full turnkey solution. So you're able to self-install with our remote support, or we can offer full installation services. So that would entail mounting the sensor and running network cables. It is a power over Ethernet device. That is crucial for reliability and stability for the system. So there is that portion to it.
Yeah, like Brendan mentioned, those brake beam style sensors, we used to sell those, and they were so popular with libraries. There's probably a lot of you who are maybe still using those or have used them in the past. They're those little boxes that you mount on either side of the doorway, and it has an IRV, and it counts people as they come and go. But we stopped selling them a few years ago because our core is really with these intelligent sensors, and so we decided to just move forward with those because they report to the cloud. And we work with a library system here in Ohio, Stark County District Library. Just to give you a little perspective, they installed those brake beam sensors in all 10 of their branches, and then 4 years later came back to us and was like, all right, we need to upgrade. So they upgraded all their libraries to an intelligent system like this, and they said the biggest benefits that they saw were the count accuracy, the real-time reporting. So a librarian doesn't have to go up to the sensor and look at the number and write it down on a tablet and then manually reset the sensor. With this system, everything goes to the cloud, it's automated. And also they mentioned the centralized reporting for all of their branches. With 10 libraries, the administrators can just go into a single dashboard and see the traffic and information across the board for the whole library system. And so Brendan's going to show you now how that intelligent imaging system works.
Okay, so what we just transitioned to is a live sensor field of view. This is actually a sensor mounted in our shop area. A very important thing here is for the sensor to be mounted overhead, facing directly downward at the traffic as folks will enter and exit. The mounting height dictates the coverage of the sensor. So depending on how high it's mounted will tell you how much you can see and how much can be covered. What you're seeing is folks coming in and out right now. So this yellow box area, that is what we call the initialization zone. That is where the sensor begins its track on a person. Again, we're tracking people based on height, so you can see each unique identifier, color-coded circle with a measurement, a height measurement. So again, the person needs to enter into the initialization zone, cross the count line in an entry or exit direction, and then leave the field of view to become a confirmed count. That's important. So if you have traffic anomalies such as U-turn traffic, loitering traffic, passerby traffic, the sensor is smart enough to omit those sorts of things. Another thing I wanted to mention, since we're talking about height and how it tracks here, so if you have a children's section or area, or you're just interested in counting children or differentiating between adult and child, the sensor can do that based on some height filters that you would set within the system there. But we're talking about a directional counter here, ins and outs being measured. Yeah, and that's just really a nice overview of how the sensor actually works.
Right. So why it's needed is the big one, which you would all know, is reporting for government funding and grants. Secondly, to justify facility expansion or remodels, to actually have those numbers to show your facility usage. And then to also analyze your library usage, to gauge things like your total traffic, your future traffic, patterns, the busiest hours, and of course the hot topics now, occupancy. And also you can do some interior metrics with our sensors. So if you wanted to measure how many people come and go from your, say your youth center, your conference rooms, your auditoriums, you could do that as well. And then we've talked to libraries who said, we don't need to count patrons because we use our circulation data to estimate our visitor count. But that leaves out a lot of other reasons why patrons are visiting your library. They're coming for classes and story time and job research. The reasons are unlimited. And we just love that libraries have become the community centers, and you need a system that's going to be able to capture all the people coming into your library. So, we say with everything libraries have to offer, circulation stats can no longer be your only data point. So Brendan's going to show us now what this data looks like in our reporting platform, VEA.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is hop into our VEA cloud reporting platform. So as an end user, this is basically where you're going to be living, if you will, and where that count data from the sensor gets pushed to. So I want to go through a few different data views to display, and yeah, so I want to get started with our dashboard view. So if you're kind of a visual, more of a visual type of person here who likes to see their data in such a way, we have dashboard views with widgets, card widgets and graphs available to you to measure your traffic. Again, a single location here, so just to kind of go over it briefly, we're looking at some card widgets here, yesterday's traffic, a month-to-date traffic at this location. Andy touched on some occupancy briefly in the beginning, but we want to throw in a little bit of the occupancy reporting here to show. So you're seeing a most recent occupancy reading for this location, how close we were to reaching the max occupancy set for this location. So that's a percent to capacity. And a few comparison cards here, yesterday's traffic compared to the same day last week. And then if you have multiple locations within your library system, it's comparing one location to the rest, and so forth. Another feature I want to bring up real quick here is the ability to have your report or your dashboard sent out reoccurring or on a scheduled basis. So if you like a certain dashboard and you want that delivered to you and other staff members, you can come in here and name that dashboard, set your times, set it on repeating, and then you can receive that regularly. Our day-hour heat map, I'd argue this is one of the more popular views for our library customers. What this is showing is the days of the week, the hours of the day, and really this is plotting an average over last week, but you can definitely change that. Similar to the dashboards that I was showing before, you can select your date range, but this is a last week average for a location, a library location. The green would be indicating that it is lighter traffic, or for the sake of the SafeSpace occupancy scenario, green to light green or yellow, you can basically, it's saying it's okay to visit this facility. When it's red or darker, you're knowing that you're reaching a higher traffic volume here, or max occupancy is being reached there. so. Similar to the day-hour heat map, I wanted to bring up just a general heat map for yesterday by hour. This is often a good view for a multi-location library system. So again, very similar. We're showing the hours of the day for each location, and then their intensity, their traffic intensity. The last data view would be our grid view. Again, like the day-hour heat map, this is a very popular feature, not just among library customers, but amongst all our customers. But really what we're showing here is basically if you're like rows and columns, you like it working in Excel or something of that nature, this is definitely going to be for you here. So we have the locations, whether you have one or several. We're looking at a week to date by day here. So you have your record date and then the ins and the outs showing here. But again, you can come in here and change your date range, how you want to view your traffic. Are we looking at traffic? Are we looking at occupancy? How are we looking at this data? Is it being looked at in a day, a week, an hour, by the minute? Once that's established, you can export these. So we do have the ability to download these to a CSV, Excel, or PDF file. You can also have these reports scheduled out on a recurring basis.
Yeah, and I interviewed the head of circulation at Swen Library at the College of William and Mary for a case study a while back. And he said how important these real-time dashboards are for their library. They were actually seeing a decline in their circulation, but an increase in their traffic. So their hour-by-hour traffic gave them insights on their peak and flow times, so they can coordinate staffing. So like those heat maps that Brendan was showing with the color coordinated, you could see right away, okay, peak times need more staff. You may even see that you need to adjust your library hours based on those types of reports. And the Swen Library was also really proud to say just how confident they are in the accuracy of their data, and that they had over 1 million visitors in a year, and they were able to easily report that number for state funding. So that's how traditional threshold counting is used. And now we're going to take a look at how our real-time occupancy system works.
Yeah, so we just wanted to give, like we said, we wanted to give you an understanding of how the technology works and what it might look like before we jumped into SafeSpace, which is a large part of the reason why you're likely here today. And we've talked to many libraries over the past 4 to 6 weeks as they're in different phases of their reopening. We know some have their doors open in some regards, some are just now starting out, figuring out how they're going to reopen, given COVID-19. And the resounding, consistent message we've heard is patron and staff safety is priority number one. If libraries cannot open safely for their team members and for their visitors, they're just not going to do it. And that's why we think SafeSpace is an ideal solution for libraries. And one of the leading reasons why is because of our patron-facing heads-up display options with SafeSpace. So we'll get into it a little bit, but SafeSpace counts your people as your visitors as they're going in and out, and gives a real-time occupancy count. But part of SafeSpace are these heads-up displays, so you can show your patrons, your visitors, that you're investing in some safe procedures and allowing them to know before they enter if it's safe to enter. And we'll show you what that looks like. But just that heads-up communication shows that investment, and it starts to build accountability and trust with your guests. And additionally, if you want to look inward on how it might benefit your own team and your libraries in general, it frees up resources. We've talked to some libraries who are dedicating staff members to doors, and they're hand counting using a tally counter or some type of pen and paper, whatever it may be, to keep track of occupancy. With SafeSpace, you don't need to do that. You can free that resource up to tend to the help desk, to restock shelves, or maybe clean books as they're coming back, depending on what your procedures are. There's a lot going on, obviously, in every library, so dedicating a person to a door to count when you can replace that task with a SenSource sensor, that is a nice feature there. Additionally, as we talked about, 97% plus accuracy, you're going to know with a really strong accuracy what your counts are at any given time. So that's nice. And again, you're building that accountability and trust with your patrons as well as your staff. You're giving them a safe place to come to work. So there's some benefit there. And then lastly, we actually just heard this from a library a couple weeks ago who had called in expressing interest in SafeSpace. They actually have to submit compliance reports to their officials, proving that they're not breaking those occupancy restrictions that are put in place. And VEA with SafeSpace can do that. We're tracking those counts, and like Brendan showed, you can actually have those reports emailed to yourself automatically, so then you can forward those on to whoever your compliance reports may need to go to. So there are benefits there that will help you keep your doors open and allow your patrons to come visit somewhere safe. So what is SafeSpace? But what does it really mean? There are two ways to track occupancy via SafeSpace. The first is the automated way, and that's with the SenSource sensors that we already spoke of. These are overhead mounted sensors that will count the ins and outs and display those counts on the heads-up displays like we mentioned. However, if you don't already have sensors in place, or at this time you're just not willing to make that investment into the technology, we do have a manual solution. As you see in the photo there, it's a smartphone or tablet based, and it's quite simple interface. It's a plus and a minus, and you just increment or decrement as people come and go. And those counts also project to the heads-up displays. There are some fallbacks to the manual, to be honest. Accuracy is the number one. If you have a person dedicated, you always have that human element where they might get distracted just for 1 second and miss a count, or they lose connectivity on their phone for whatever reason, and they forget to catch up on the counts. There's some downfalls to the manual aspect, but we did want to offer it because you can use it as a hybrid. So let's say you have two main entrances to your library, and you have sensors at those doors to count the ins and outs, but maybe you have a staff member only entrance in the back. So what you could do in that situation is have sensors at the two main doors, and then maybe mount a tablet by the staff entrance, where when they come in, they hit the plus sign to have the occupancy go up, and then when they leave at the end of the day, they hit the minus sign to have the count go down. So you can use a hybrid of both automated and manual. Obviously, we're going to recommend that you go the automated direction for the accuracy, but there are a couple solutions there for you. And again, this data is synced real time. So it's within milliseconds as somebody crosses those barriers that Brendan showed you in the camera view, the count goes up or down. So it's real time, and then it can display to those patron-facing devices, whether it's a TV or a tablet, to communicate the occupancy. And then once again, just to reiterate, we do have those reporting tools available. So Brendan's actually going to hop back into VEA and show you a little bit about the setup and how it looks and how it functions.
Yeah, so as Andy mentioned, so SafeSpace is a feature within the VEA Cloud platform here. So simply over here off to the left, you can select your SafeSpace when that's enabled. Just to look at a single location here, the location, the safe space for that location. So what you're seeing here is some display URLs, door greeter view, your settings. Your settings are simply where you're going to come in and set your max occupancy, the name of your safe space, the ability to apply some resets to that, which we definitely recommend, especially if you have you have operational hours and you're closed for a certain time. It's good to refresh SafeSpace daily, just so you have a good, accurate start each day. Because of that 97% accuracy rating, there is a chance that the sensor could over or under count, and you just don't want that to drift over time or compound. So a daily reset is definitely recommended. So again, coming in here to set your settings for SafeSpace, the door greeter view, as Andy mentioned, so this is going to show the max occupancy that you've set, and then the ability to add and subtract counts as patrons enter and exit. You'll see here the green color code here. As this begins to fill and you're reaching your occupancy levels, this will change to a amber color, almost like a kind of like warning color, and then to a red when you're reaching max occupancy, and then when you do reach max occupancy, it is going to be red in color. Just to go back and show you some of the URLs or the display views that you can utilize. So this would be our direct text view. Sorry. So this is basically the door greeter view that you just saw without the ability to add and subtract or reset your counts. We have an image only, or excuse me, not an image view. So this is going to be something to show whether or not your library would be, if folks can enter or not. It's something just a little bit more telling for your patrons. So again, it's green right now, showing that it's okay to enter here. But as this fills, you would see the yellow and then to the red, and then when occupancy is maxed, you will receive a do not enter image. Lastly, the image only view. So if you don't want to show any numbers, you can just show an enter or do not enter symbol. Currently, we do have an app in our Amazon store. So if you have a Fire tablet or a Fire TV, you can display this on there with ease using the app. We're about 3 or 4 weeks away from an iOS and Android app release, so that is coming. The last bit here to mention is the ability to integrate or utilize the SafeSpace APIs here if you'd like to display SafeSpace on, let's say, your library website or something of that nature. You just would like to integrate it with a system you already have. We do have a REST API library and with documentation where you can utilize that. And then SafeSpace does come with alarms and alerting, so when your max occupancy and certain levels are reached, you can receive emailed and text message alerts. And so I know I mentioned some of the display views and how they color change. Previously there, we were looking at a live location that just simply wasn't there yet. But here's just a view or an idea of what it would look like as you approach or reach a max occupancy. So here you're seeing the amber, orange color here, and then when it's full, you know, it's do not enter, red.
And then just to recap SafeSpace altogether, like Andy and Brendan just talked about, if for a library scenario, you would want to have a sensor at whatever main entrances your patrons are using to access your library. You want that to be automated and accurate, so sensors there. And say maybe you have a secondary, you know, an entrance in the back that's just an employee-only entrance that you're maybe not willing to invest in a sensor placement there because it's hopefully not going to be a long-term sort of need. So in that case, we would recommend, okay, use the manual counter app there. Have a tablet set up by that back door, so when employees come and go, they can hit the plus/minus button to make the correct occupancy status. And like we mentioned too, all of those sensors that you have, plus the manual counters, all that data is going to the cloud and it's being combined and synced. So the status that's being displayed on those TV units for your patrons is always going to be real time. It's going to be cumulative of all of those data points.
So that wraps up what we had in terms of prepared slides. One thing we just want to reiterate is we are a dedicated company who has been counting people since 2002. Obviously, SafeSpace is a newer product offering, but as you can see, it aligned really well with what we do. And we've worked with many, many libraries over the years, and we're experienced there. And we look forward to the opportunity to work with all of you out there who are on the webinar today that we've not yet had the chance to talk with. And on that note, Jenny said that tomorrow she will be sending out a recording of this webinar. So we encourage you to watch it again if you happen to miss anything or maybe have some lingering questions. And our contact information will be included with that. So please don't hesitate to reach out. If you have some questions that if the email comes to me that I might not know, I'll get you in touch with Brendan or I'll get you in touch with tech support. We'll definitely get you pointed in the right direction because we have a very good, diverse, well-rounded team here, and we are looking forward to the opportunity of speaking with you. So thank you again for joining us today. And what we'd like to do now is open it up to answer any questions that may have been submitted.
Thanks, guys. That was wonderful. What a fantastic product. Yes, we've got lots of questions coming in, as you imagine. First one, how would you track multiple floor buildings with multiple stairwells and elevator paths?
Yeah. So if it's based on occupancy, you just want to make sure that those points are covered. If there is an entry or exit point that is used, the best advice I can give is to cover it, to account for it. That would be the way that we could manage an overall building occupancy versus floor 1 to floor 2 to floor 3 and so on. So if there's points that aren't being covered, it's just not, it won't make sense. It won't be as accurate as it could be. So that would be my advice there. Is just make sure an elevator or a stairwell, something that there's either a staff member or a sensor covering that.
Okay, great. Thank you. We already have SenSource monitors, and we use VEA to get stats. Can we use those same sensors with SafeSpace?
Yeah, so potentially, I'll say. So I know Jess mentioned in the beginning, so we've been offering people counters for a long time now, from break beam style solutions all the way up to the 3D technology we're showing today. If you have a 3D model that was shown here, if you have something that appears similar to this, two lenses here on this sensor, chances more than likely that you are compatible here. You also want to be enrolled in our VEA cloud, or you want to be subscribed to VEA cloud. So this isn't available in any sort of on-premise or locally installed software. One, you want to have the 3D technology here, and two, you want to be subscribed to VEA cloud.
And if we do have any customers, current SenSource customers out there, and you're unsure, just reach out to your rep or to tech support. We have all that information with your account, so we can look that up and figure out if you have the capable technology that would work with SafeSpace, or if not. And if not, we can point you in the right direction on what you might need to do to get set up.
Right. And if you are compatible, it's a really quick turnaround. It's really just tech support, flipping a few switches and making sure that the sensor settings are correct, and that should unlock all the features for real-time counting at your location.
Excellent. All right. Is it possible to customize the heads-up displays? Is there an API that will allow us to build our own?
Such a popular question.
Yeah.
There is. So this data point URL, you would utilize the data point URL here with, we do have API documentation. This VEA uses a full REST API library. So yes, you can integrate using the data point URL to do that. So I'll just open this up. Basically what you'll see here, I know it's very small, but it's all this white space, but with your occupancy number. So this would imply that, this is you dressing up your own display to make it your own.
What's the lead time for installs?
I would say in most cases, if we're dealing with like maybe a single or two location, probably looking within 2 weeks.
Okay.
Especially if SenSource is installing. If you're self-installing, it could be a little quicker. So a lot of that's dependent on you and the speed of you or your vendor or whomever you're utilizing to install. But if SenSource is installing, I think it's safe to say around 2 weeks.
Right, and that question was so much easier to answer before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Everything is just so questionable right now with being able to get techs in the field, and just shipping is always a little crazy right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What are the hardware requirements for each sensor?
So the sensor requires power over Ethernet connectivity to work. That is crucial. There needs to be that connection for it, and to communicate with our cloud platform, it's just a single outbound connection.
So it's a single Cat5 cable runs to each sensor,
Okay.
to your network.
All right. Is there a maximum ceiling height?
There is. So we have, this model here is our standard model, so it typically fits most scenarios. It has a mounting height range of as low as 7.5 feet upwards to just under 20 feet. Again, the mounting height dictates the coverage. That is very important. So The higher you go within that range, obviously the more coverage you're going to get. So depending on the width of your doorway or entryway, will that'll allow us to know just how high we need to be, or can one sensor cover? Does it need two? But we do have other models that can go very high. We have some that can go up to 65 feet high. So I would say as low as 7.5 upwards to 65 feet.
Wow. Okay. How does it distinguish if two or more people enter at the same time?
So I can't get into the tracking algorithm portion of that, but so it is designed to count group traffic. So whether you have folks entering by themselves or in large groups, the sensor is designed to count multiple people entering and exiting. So as many people as you can fit within this field of view of the sensor, as you were seeing the large flow of people when we were doing the walk testing, as many people as you can fit within this field of view, that's how many people the sensor can count. So it does do very well with a variance in volume of traffic. So just to put into some perspective, one of my customers is San Francisco Public Libraries. Their main branch has about 30 sensors at it, and they receive tens of thousands of counts sometimes in just a few days. So it can definitely tolerate group traffic. So.
Okay. If we don't need SafeSpace occupancy monitoring service after the pandemic is over, will the monthly cost be reduced?
It would.
Okay.
Yeah, SafeSpace can be
turned off.
It can be a month-to-month. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's kind of part of like what Andy talked about earlier about just how flexible we are as a company. So, our SaaS agreements and with cloud software, it's always been annual contracts. That just makes sense. And so we even had to turn our accounting kind of upside down here to do monthly, because that makes sense. That's what people need. We're all kind of hoping this isn't a long-term issue where we have to be monitoring capacity. So we made sure that SafeSpace was a month-to-month commitment, and then you can cancel it at any time.
And on the other side of that, one thing that we have been talking to different companies, not just libraries, is if they currently don't have sensors installed, and so they're a little hesitant to install sensors for SafeSpace because they just don't know when SafeSpace will end. We think quite the opposite. We think that this is a great opportunity to go ahead and try sensors, get them into your facilities, get them installed, get used to them, and then once the need for SafeSpace has passed by, hopefully, sooner than later, you'll have those sensors in place, and then you can just transition to a traditional patron counting, which, as we talked about, there's a lot of benefits that go into that. So for those who have been a little maybe apprehensive or just haven't had the reason to give sensors a try, this is the opportunity to get started.
Okay. So what is the price for upgrading existing 3D sensors to SafeSpace?
Well, the hardware cost is the hardware cost there. So $795 is the standard model sensor.
It's really going to be
it's going to be a case-to-case thing.
Case-to-case.
Right. It's going to be.
It all depends what they have in place already.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there maintenance and troubleshooting supported?
There is. So when you're subscribed to VEA, the platform there, that's ongoing, that's proactive service and support there. So that's all included there.
And it's all in-house. It's all in-house tech support right here in Youngstown, Ohio.
Okay, great. And there's training also available?
There is.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
We have weekly demo sessions and training sessions held by tech support, and we have a sales-led demo as well every week.
Yeah, and it's always hard to kind of talk about your tech support because everybody thinks their team is awesome, but our tech support team, the calibration of the sensor is really almost an art, and I feel like it puts us so much ahead of a lot of our competitors in this scenario, because the scenes that Brendan was showing you with drawing the count lines and the boxes, you really have to know what you're doing there. And so our tech support team, part of your package of purchasing this is what we call the calibration. They're going to calibrate your sensors. They're going to set it up. So they're actually going to look at this view of your library. They're going to, kind of get a few questions and answers from you about how people access the area, and they're going to draw out these count lines, and then they're going to test it, and then they're going to see if they missed anything, and it's a continual back and forth until we are like sure that we're reaching that 90% guarantee before we even commission it and say you're good to go live. And then again, down the road, if there's ever questions about your accuracy, we have that ability to do the video validation and actually look in there at how the sensor is counting, compare it to the video, manually count, make sure that everything is correct.
Okay, great. This probably is related. How wide is this field of view?
So again, the field of view is dependent on the mounting height. So just to give you an example here. So this sensor that's mounted in our shop is mounted at 12 feet. At 12 feet, you're going to get, if I recall, it's well over 10 feet wide. The sensor maxes out at, the standard model maxes out at a 23-foot wide of coverage, mounted at anywhere from 15 to that max threshold of 19.5 feet or so. We have some wide coverage models that can get close to 35 feet wide of coverage. So again, it's very dependent on what height the sensor is mounted at. So
yeah, we have all this documented in charts that we would be happy to send you if you want to reply to that email tomorrow.
Okay, this may be a repeat, but do we provide our own monitors for the heads-up display, and will any monitors work?
Yeah, that's a great question, and Brendan might be able to speak to the technical aspect, but it can be either way. We can supply the TVs, as we shared in that one slide. We sourced and programmed the TVs here and then shipped them to the customer. But additionally, if you have TVs in your back room, or you have a TV that's not being used, or you just want to go to your local store and purchase a TV for your library, you can do that.
Okay.
We do have a couple ways to display the counts. We have an Amazon app on the App Store that's a display option, and like Brendan mentioned, we have iOS and Android display apps coming very soon. So basically, if you have a Fire TV or a Fire Stick on your TV, or basically any TV with a web browser, you can display the counts. So you don't have to get it through us, but if you do decide to purchase the display through us, we can pre-program them. So all you need to do is turn them on and be able to access those counts.
Okay, great. How secure is the information that's being gathered?
Yeah, so it's all password protected. All the sensors are password protected. The only thing that the sensor stores is raw count data. So that's a count, a date, and timestamp, and that's what it pushes. So there's no ongoing recording or anything of that nature. So, but yeah, so devices are password protected, as well as when you log into VEA, it does require a username and password login.
And additionally, our software development team, we have an in-house software development team right here in our office, and I would say they average 2 software releases a month. Is that fair, guys? So when we're talking about 20 to 26 software releases a year, many of those releases contain some type of strengthening security. It's an ongoing battle, obviously, but we stand by our team and our development, and we're always continually reinvesting in security to keep whatever data that we do have on the cloud secure for you.
Right, and again, we have lots of documentation on it, so if there's something specific, we're not the technical people to probably answer it, but we did get the answers for you.
Okay. Is a TV monitor included in the $795 price?
It is not. So we sell so if you were to purchase a display from us, it is a 32-inch Samsung Smart TV with web browser feature. We sell that for $195.
Okay. Okay, wonderful. Well, that was the end of the questions. Do you guys have anything
Great.
you want to add before we log off?
We don't, other than thank you once again for taking the time to attend the webinar. We saw the numbers there. It was a lot of people, so we hope we answered all your questions and planted some seeds that you might want to follow up on. And if so, like I mentioned, just please follow up with us. We'll be happy to entertain the conversation and get you in touch with our sales department, which includes Brendan and some of his peers out there in the sales department, we'd be happy to get in touch with you. Current customers, if you have any technical questions about your current setup, or maybe just adding SafeSpace, please don't hesitate to reach out again. We'll get you in touch with those right folks. But we hope everybody stays safe, and best of luck as you enter this reopening phase. We know it's a challenge, but we're all in this together. So good luck, and please let us know if there's anything we can do to help.